Hi there, my friends. It's been a while since I've done a video, so it's really nice to be back and part of things. And I just think, what a year it's been, eh? Oh my goodness! And I just wondered, like, where can we find hope in the midst of what we're in here? Um, so anyway, let me just give a few reflections on that. I think of Jesus as a Jesus follower, but there are many other faith traditions in the world that are seeking to find hope, and in their spiritual lives, I'm sure are finding some hope. But these are some reflections from my Jesus tradition, anyway. And I just think about Jesus being born into the world of Roman occupation. And for the Jews, it was a matter of strict religious observance. And so, with heavy taxation, people were financially oppressed. And for many, hope would be for the Romans to be overthrown, alleviating the injustices, the fear, and the heavy financial burdens. Any Messiah would come surely to relieve the people of this. And not only did people suffer under the Romans, but there was a heavy duty placed on all Jews to pay the temple tax. So there was a religious oppression as well, and submit to the many observances handed down throughout the centuries. Although the synagogues offered some solace, life was not easy, and indeed troubled times for those living in Palestine, as it is now as well. The thought that perhaps a Messiah had appeared was something that gave hope. But Jesus did not come to overthrow either the Romans or to encourage people to turn their backs on the temple authority, even though he did speak truth to those powers. His message of hope lay in creating the community of God here on earth. Every parable and every story teaches about how to live in this world in a way that reflects the community of God. Well, one had to live in the kingdom of the world, obey the laws and tax requirements. Each individual could aspire toward and fulfill the expectations of the community of God, which was very liberating and hopeful. The idea of community gave Christ's followers hope despite being surrounded by prejudice, harassment, and dangerous hatreds. So I just think about, what we're living in right now, and what so much of the world is living in. Terrible injustices happening, a lot of fear. And where do we find hope in the midst of being bombarded with all this news every day? And I wonder if our hope certainly lies in our relationship with God, knowing that God is, it is God's world, even though, my goodness, but God has entrusted humanity to fulfill God's purposes here. Not that we've done a great job, but I wonder if we can find and establish and become part of this community of God here on earth, where we love each other, where there's no distinction between rich and poor, where the marginalized are included, the street people, high execs, like I've always loved church or faith gatherings for that, because people from every walk of life find themselves there. And it's just interesting who we get to know and bump into. Presently, I'm part of the Rama Faith Circle, which is First Nations community. And so we gather our Sunday morning gatherings. it's really a sharing time. We do a lot of the ceremonies from the Indigenous history and story, smudging and drumming. And then we have stories of Jesus's parables and stories from the Indigenous community and traditions. And I just so enjoy it because it's not structured in the way that I've mostly known church to be structured. It's a gathering of people. We're such a motley crew. We're evolving and developing, and but there's a sense of joy, a sense of caring for each other, a sense like I see in this community hope. You know that we've come from all sorts of different places, carrying lots of wounds and stuff, and looking for healing and hope, and that we can be together in the midst of all this. So I wonder if that's part of God's invitation in the day that all of us are called to live in right now. Certainly in the day that Jesus came into the world, it was as bad, if not worse, than what we're experiencing now. And he suggested and invited and asked that people follow him into these communities of God, communities of faith, to love one another and care for one another. So there's hope in communities where we pray together, we experience the power of the Spirit in our lives, that we can love each other and provide safety for people to tell their stories and be real. Hope in being real and authentic in who we are. Of course, many of you know I love Francis of Assisi. So the day he was born, 1180 to 1220, in Italy, very heavy burden of guilt and sin that people were carrying around. And the hope he offered was, that's not true. That you were born in love, you were born in goodness, and that who God created in you is good. Now we blow it. All of us have blown it, but that's not the essence and the core of who we are. The essence and core of who we are is not sin. The essence of core of who we are is goodness and a beautiful creation of a loving God. And for people back in his day, that was so liberating to know that I am a beautiful creation of God, created in love, and a God who delights in me and desires to have a relationship with me and call out the best in me and to become who I've been created to be in the world. So that was such a message of hope. And I think a lot of our theology and belief systems that we've carried into the Western world have been guilt and sin. And Francis's message caused the renewal in Europe in his day. I mean, there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people who became Franciscan followers because this liberating message of being loved and being good rather than being sin and the mea culpa, guilt. So I think that message of hope is really what people are looking for in their spiritual inner lives, that you are a beautiful creation of a loving God, and just become who God created you to be, and celebrate your giftedness and offer that to the world. And when we blow it, we can be honest about that. Like, I blew it, I said these things, I would have, whatever, and know that the grace of forgiveness is there for us as we bring and do our life review before this loving God who longs and delights in us, who longs for a relationship with us. So, community of God, be part of that. For me, that's been very hopeful. And also to know that I am loved and that I'm good and that I'm a beautiful creation of a loving God. I think those are the two hopeful messages that I would want to leave us with tonight. And in the midst of the world, we will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for God has overcome the world. And we are called to be aligned with God's love and God's spirit and God's hope and God's purpose. So lovely to be with you again. And I pray that you be richly blessed in knowing that you are the beloved of God.